us. Look at what Binance is doing to our economy.
How did the government allow the saboteurs to take over? How did the government allow the saboteurs to have a sway?
That is why the government moved against Binance. Some people sit down using the cyberspace to dictate even our exchange rate, hijacking the role of the CBN. They just sit down and fix anything they like. And we were told, for instance, that if you don't clamp down on Binance will destroy the economy of this country. They just fix rate.
So it's a digital hijack of the economy. That's what it looks like.
Sabotage.
It's a digital hijack. There's some kind of hijack.
And we are trying to...
It's no secret that the Naira is experiencing its all-time low in the international market. As of yesterday, the Naira traded for over 1,800 per dollar. This free rise of the Naira is worrisome and has caused a lot of economists to speculate on the issue. One of such issues being discussed is that the Binance P2P traders are responsible for the rise of the Naira. If you want to sell the same 1 USD to Naira, you will sell it at 1,892 Naira. Now, it is important to know that even though these traders fix the price themselves, the price is being determined by the price in the parallel market, the price that is being sold in the black market, of which these traders has no power over. They have no power to manipulate these prices. So what the FG is saying is that this trader here fixed these prices, which in turn affect every other price. They are accusing them of hiking and speculating the price of the Naira for their personal gain. This is disingenuous. They are not being sincere to themselves. There are many factors responsible for the rise of the Naira, and Binance P2P traders are not one of them. Nigeria is operating a consumption economy. We consume a lot without producing anything. Our major source of income, the crude oil, is being sold in the international market for the dollar. So there is no demand for the Naira anywhere in the world. That is why the Naira is weak. Rather than accusing the P2P traders, why not they look at the Senate, who bought a vehicle, an SUV worth 162 million per person. Now, these vehicles were bought overseas. They were bought in the foreign currency. Instead of them investing that money in our local currency, in our Naira, they decided to go and spend the money in overseas. And of course, these people make a lot of foreign trips. Their children's school abroad. But rather than looking at all these things, they turn around to blame the Binance P2P traders. Let's look further as to why the Naira is falling. I want you to listen carefully because we need to be informed to know the reason and those that are sabotaging our economy.
To shore up our reserves to help protect the Naira from the downward spiral that has been going over the last 6 months. And then somebody is telling us that they are going to secure it with 167 million barrels of crude oil, valued at today's market price at $12 billion. Somebody need to make that make sense to me. Are the crude oil going to be given? Is it a collateral that will be returned back to Nigeria? Or are we exchanging $12 billion worth of crude oil in today's market value for $3 billion at 12% interest rate? It does not make sense. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Nigeria is not one special purpose vehicle that was incorporated somewhere in Somalia or Yemen. 12% interest rate to a sovereign nation like Nigeria as interest rate. And of course, there are even hush-hush sounds that fees in excess of over $100 million were paid. That one had not been clarified. It does not make sense. Nigeria, as of today, has capacity to borrow $3 billion without the kind of convoluted structure that they put in place, just like what they did over this. The other day, they told us they wanted to structure $7 billion against dividend receivables of Nigerian shares in the Nigerian liquefied natural gas, which is okay. Borrowing against dividend payments, which simply means, of course, the LNG have been very profitable over time. And that is what we are also expected of the NNPC. If the federal government of Nigeria, they are very sincere, they should divest at least 55% of their holdings from the NNPC, allow private sector investors, so the NNPC can become more transparently run without interference from the political circle, National Assembly, everybody inviting them to harass them. In such a way, we can also be talking about borrowing against NNPC dividends. But the truth of the matter is that it does not make sense. Borrowing, remember that our daily output now is about 1.3 million barrels. We're even projecting to increase to 1.78 million barrels a day. That simply means we've mortgaged over 35% of our annual crude oil output just to secure $3 billion loan. It does not make sense at 12%. In fact, that structure, whatever arrangement that they've made, does not make sense to any rational reasoning in Nigeria. It does not make sense.
To make of the $65 per barrel used to calculate the allocated 90,000 barrels of oil per day, which will be used daily until we're able to get the total that have been calculated. Is that very reasonable, or do you think it should have been higher than that to reflect the current prices?
See, let me tell you, it is very unreasonable. What has been the average price of the crude oil daily prices over the last 1 year? Let us do some trend analysis simulation. And what is the projection going into the next 2, 3, 5 years, depending on the tenor of the arrangement? Come on. Nigeria is not that broke that if we want to raise $10 billion into this economy at single-digit interest rate, that we cannot do it. We can't continue this way as a country. Look at it. From May 29, 2023, the Naira has lost from 765 Naira to $1 when it was devalued. Today, it closed at 1,550 Naira to $1 in the parallel market. And there is something dangerous that we're seeing here. There's no liquidity in the market, dollar liquidity. And let me explain to you what is happening here. A serious country, a serious nation, a serious government, what will have simply done? We've been on this thing over the last 7 months. Simple things that will have been done. Why are we having so much pressure on the dollar? Simply means that this demand for the dollar far outweighs the supply. And what is driving this demand? We have outstanding obligations within the banking system. Outstanding LC obligations that are even ranking over the last 3 years of almost about $8 billion. Even the airways have over, international airlines have over $570 million out there. A serious government will have simply done an inquest. Okay, bank-wide, what do we have? We have in the portfolio $8.5 billion that had to be liquidated. These are lawful, fully transacted obligations that are being owed by entrepreneurs in Nigeria through the banking system. How do we raise money to wipe this out? When you clear these obligations, you set the ground floor parallel, the same level, and people begin to plan their purchases, their manufacturing, their raw material purchases on an even keel. Today, we have 3 issues now pursuing the dollar. We have the speculative demand. And the speculative demand here is because most investors, even Nigerians, have lost confidence and trust on the ability of those who purport to govern us, and even the institutions, to stabilize this market. 2, which is the most dangerous, the corruption demand for the dollar, which is very dangerous. Look at it. Nationwide, from the federal government to the state government, total budgetary expenditure provisions they've made was about 40 to 45 trillion. If you aggregate, the 28.7 trillion budget proposal by the federal government has been passed, and the states. And I tell you, Sambo, over 60% of these monies annually are stolen. So we are looking at critically over 24 trillion that will be taken out of this.
When you say 60%,
once they collect the fact, they collect the jack.
When you say 60% of this budget are stolen annually, I mean, that will be putting issues on a different level, because, I mean, if we had budgets being stolen to that extent, I mean, even the international financial system will be much more afraid than what they are doing at the moment.
Sambo.
Wouldn't it be an overkill for you to make such a statement?
Okay, see, let me give you a practical example. The EFCC chairman told us on national TV during his screening that between 2018 and 2020, over 2.9 trillion was stolen, fraudulently taken through contract over invoicing. That is just one overhead. Now let me explain to you what is happening here. Why do you think that the Naira is going where it is going because it is being demanded by those seeking for lawful transactions? The answer is no. In 2022, we imported $53 billion worth of goods into this country, calculated. Now, is Nigeria a country that cannot easily generate between $100 to $200 billion on an annual basis? The answer is no. But the question is, what are we doing to show up the supply side of the dollar? From the foreign diaspora alone, we can easily get remittances of up to $50 billion. But we need to put in place the right constitutional, physical structures in place to allow this to happen. I listened to your last guest that left your studio. Nigeria is one country that can produce over $200 billion of agro commodities across the value chains, both from the upstream and the downstream areas. But why are we not producing even enough to feed this country? Because of insecurity, because of structural deformities, because of corruption in the public sector. I give you one example on rice value chain. In 2015, a bag of rice was selling for 8,550 kg. Today, it is 45,000, 50,000 naira. And we were being regaled with stories of how CBN gave out 1.3 billion, 1.3 trillion to rice farmers. Today in Nigeria, we consume about 7.4 million tons of rice every year. What we currently produce about 3.8 million tons. Rice is something you can grow twice in a year. For us to cover the supply gap, domestic supply gap in Nigeria, all we need to do is scientifically and structurally, over the 8,809 electoral wards in Nigeria, cultivate 1 million hectares of the new Geri species rice farm. Under a structured arrangement, in 1 year, we will cover the supply gap. When supply is more than demand, prices will come down.